Bob Dylan is a musical icon everyone knows, but his personal life? That's a whole different story, full of secrets and intrigue. Let's explore the relationships that shaped him, from celebrated romances to those cloaked in mystery.
Do you sing protest songs?
No.
What do you sing?
No, I sing all love songs.
First up is Suze Rotolo, the young woman you've probably seen walking arm in arm with Dylan on the iconic cover of the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. That photo screams romance, and for a while, it was.
I thought it was a great cover, a very unusual cover for the time.
Dylan and Suze met in 1961, shortly after he arrived in New York. She was just 17 at the time, and he was completely smitten. Dylan himself described her as the most erotic thing he'd ever seen. Cupid hit him hard, folks. Their love inspired many of his early songs like Don't Think Twice, It's All Right, where he wrote, I once loved a woman, a child I'm told. But this fairy tale didn't last. Things turned rocky, especially when Dylan got involved with Joan Baez, the legendary singer and activist. Joan and Bob bonded over their shared love of folk music in the early 60s. Together, they were the power duo of the folk scene, but by 1965, things had soured. Their breakup even played out in the documentary, Don't Look Back. Years later, Dylan admitted he felt bad about how things ended, calling Joan Joni with what seemed like genuine regret.
I was just trying to deal with the madness that had become my career. And unfortunately she got swept along and I felt very bad about it. I was sorry to see our relationship end.
Then came Sarah Lowndes, who became Dylan's first wife in 1965. Sarah was a former model and Playboy bunny, but she was nothing like the public image that title might suggest. She was private, calm, and far removed from Dylan's whirlwind lifestyle. In fact, her grounded nature brought stability to Dylan's chaotic world. The two started dating while both were technically in other relationships. Sarah was married and Bob was still tied to Joan Baez.
I think when somebody walks away from you, you feel a lot more than if you walk away from them. And I got walked away from in a big way, and it was hard to get over.
But Sarah brought something entirely different to his life, a sense of home. Together, they created a calm domestic life, raising 4 children, and Dylan even adopting Maria, Sarah's daughter from her first marriage. For nearly a decade, Dylan shifted gears, embracing the role of a dedicated family man.
Troubles come, but they will pass. Find a woman and find love, and don't forget there's always someone above.
He wrote songs, painted, and even walked his kids to school. Dylan later said his family became his light, and he'd protect that light at all costs. It wasn't all smooth sailing, though. Their marriage hit a breaking point during an ambitious home renovation project in the 70s, because what's more stressful than rebuilding a house, right? Still, it wasn't just the renovation that cracked their foundation. By February 1977, things reached a boiling point. One morning, Sarah went down to breakfast at their Malibu home and found Dylan sitting at the table, not just with their children, but with another woman. The shock was overwhelming, and Sarah snapped. A fierce argument followed, during which she later claimed Dylan struck her. So, Sarah cited infidelity as the final straw, and their marriage was over.
Well, she was with me back then through thick and thin, you know? It just wasn't the kind of life that she had ever envisioned for herself, any more than the kind of life that I was living that I had envisioned for mine.
But here's where things get really interesting. Dylan's second marriage. For years, no one even knew it happened. In 1986, he married Carolyn Dennis, one of his backing singers, 6 months after their daughter Desiree was born. The whole thing stayed under wraps for over a decade. Can you imagine? A secret marriage and a child hidden from the world until she was a teenager. Even when the truth came out, Carolyn defended Dylan as a great dad. She said they kept their family private to give their daughter a normal life. And you know what? That kind of secrecy feels very on brand for Dylan.
You go out to restaurants now?
I don't like to eat in restaurants.
Because people come up and say, are you him?
That's always gonna happen, yeah.
But that's not all. There were whispers of other relationships, like Ruth Turangiel, who was declared a common-law wife, and even claims that Dylan secretly married another singer, Clyde King, and had 2 children with her. None of this was ever officially confirmed, of course, but it just adds to Dylan's aura of mystery.
Well, I'd seen all these titles written about me, know.
And you started to believe it?
And through it all, there's one constant: his love for his kids. Jacob Dylan, his youngest son with Sarah, once revealed what a loving father Dylan was. He never missed a single Little League game I had. He's collected every home run ball I ever hit. And he's still affectionate to me. Maybe he doesn't want people to know that. So, behind the enigmatic public persona, there was a dad who showed up. Now, it might seem like all cult musicians have a reputation for being womanizers, and let's be honest, that's often the case. But there's at least one rock legend who's proven to be a one-woman man: Jon Bon Jovi. Jon Bon Jovi and Dorothea Hurley met as high school students back in the late 1970s. The pair went to the same school in New Jersey, and when Jon first laid eyes on Dorothea, he knew that she was special. He shared, "She let me cheat off her in history. I was immediately drawn to her from the minute I saw her, and that never changed." Dorothea added, "I always said I was good at spotting potential too. I have a gift." The high school sweethearts were immediately smitten and inseparable. They dated throughout the rest of their school years, but didn't rush to get married after they both graduated in 1980. Jon was determined to pursue his career as a musician, and in 1983, he formed his own rock band. The band quickly rose to success, and Jon's life was suddenly thrown into the spotlight. On the other hand, didn't aspire for a life in the spotlight, and for a brief moment, the couple was torn in different directions. Jon and Dorothea briefly broke up in 1985, and during that time, Jon dated actress Diane Lane for 5 months. After his breakup with Diane, Jon and Dorothea were drawn back to one another and managed to rekindle their love. After the couple reconciled, they knew that what they had was forever, and they never wanted to be with anyone else. While Jon's career peaked and he enjoyed the unbelievable success of his band, he felt like there was no point in planning a big wedding when there were so many time-consuming demands that came along with his fame. He and his band were constantly touring and performing, and it felt like there was so little time to do what they wanted for themselves. Instead, he thought of a brilliant idea. He and Dorothea were going to get hitched in Vegas. The musician recalled, "I turned to Dorothea and said, 'I got an idea. Why don't we go right now?' She said, 'You're out of your mind.' I said, 'Come on, what's better than this, right now, this moment?' And so we ran off to Las Vegas, didn't tell a soul." After 9 years together, the high school sweethearts eloped in Vegas in April 1989. 4 years later, the couple welcomed their first child, a daughter they named Stephanie. In 1995, they had a son, Jesse. In 2004, the couple welcomed their fourth and last child, a son they called Romeo. Just shy of his 30th wedding anniversary, Bon Jovi shared that his fans were distraught after he and Dorothea got married. He explained, "It was like Harry Styles or Justin Timberlake getting married. I was that to the young girls in my time. When I came back from Vegas, my manager was furious. He was like, 'America's boy is now married. That's not a good career move.' The record company was also despondent. But nothing broke the bond between Jon and Dorothea, and their love stood the test of time. Or did it? Dorothea was nowhere to be seen at the New York City screening of Jon's documentary, a little over 1 week after attending the UK screening. As reported, it was a severe case of COVID-19 that kept Hurley at home. However, his absence raised eyebrows, especially after Jon's recent comments hinting at cheating in his marriage. "These are all the wonderful cliches of rock stardom," he told the publication. "It's about never lying about having been a saint but not being a fool enough to the home life either." He also confessed about having many girls in his life, but how could that be possible while staying loyal to Dorothea?
I'm not a saint. You know, I'm not saying that there weren't 100 girls in my life. I'm Jon Bon Jovi. It was pretty good.
Apparently, Jovi's revelations might have stirred up some trouble in his marriage to Hurley, so it's a waiting game now to see how their relationship weathers this storm. Will their bond withstand this test?
I have very few regrets.
Yet he still exudes the charisma of a rock star with his wealth, devoted wife, and countless gold records.
The songs will outlive all of us at this point.
Will we get another hit from Bon Jovi in the nearest future? Well, let's hope so.